Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to your trading week wrap-up. I almost misspoke that one. It is the final day of February out there today. Hope you had a great session. It was a relief rally I was looking forward to, and a lot of positivity for my accounts. Thank goodness, because the last 4 days have been absolutely just gut-wrenching with regards to MicroStrategy and crypto. But we got a little bit of a reprieve today. We'll see if that continues next week. Let's see. I go out here with a little cheers to everybody. I was going to not drink whiskey today, but I've been persuaded to drink whiskey on the Friday show today. Not by you guys, but cheers, Katie. Thanks for the peer pressure. People have asked me what I was... Whew, man, that's good. My friend Tyler bought this one for my birthday. And it's funny, when you look at this bottle, it looks like a rum bottle. And even the visuals on it are even a little rum-esque. It's called... Puncher's Chance from the Left Cross. It's a 14-year bourbon aged in Jamaican dark rum bottle. I was like, wow, very cool. So yeah, that's been the one I've had the last couple weeks, and I've been enjoying it. Really, 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 really tasty, and a celebratory Friday. All right, let's dive into it. As you saw the graphic here, I asked AI to show, I said, show political conflict between the Ukraine and the United States. And this is what it gave me. It gave me a really odd-looking flag. Before I dive into that and the fun from that might transpire from this, let's go through not the January results, and this is what happens when you get going too quickly. For those of you who may have been in there, I was just in the simple options session with Lori and her crew for Trading Academy, which is a lot of fun, so I didn't have a chance to update that properly. So let's go to February results. I'm just curious, you guys type in a chat, out of our 8 markets that I cover here to start the show, how many of those markets for the month of February were positive? Just type in a number. You've got between 0 and 8, right? So between 0 and 8, how many out of those 8 markets do you think were up for the month? Just kind of curious what we think. And I guess I'll just leave it at that. I'll let you guys type in how many you think were up for the month of February. You know, at the all said and done, at the end of it, this last week was pretty savage for the equity indexes. But is it all doom and gloom? Well, there's always some shining piece out there. There was actually one market. I'll show you what it is right now. We'll start here at the bottom. Bitcoin. We know Bitcoin is getting absolutely hammered today. I'll talk about this pattern here in just a second. So I got threes, a lot of 2s, 1s, zeros. Yeah, kind of surprising. And it's like not even really that close. Just 1. Yeah, you got it. So we'll start with Bitcoin. Pretty ugly, down 17.12% for the month. At the end of it all, though, and I'll talk about this in just a minute, we had a really exceptionally positive pattern happen on Bitcoin today, and I'll dive more into this later on. So at the end of the day, not bad. So let's go to the very beginning of February. I'm tongue-tied today. So here's the first official day of February, and we'll go from the closing of January to the low point that we had. At one point, Bitcoin was down for the month 22.88%. Closing only down 17 seems like a bonus. So that was your worst performer by a wild margin. Number 7 was the 10-year yield. This, I have to say, this is probably the biggest surprise to me. You know, when we looked at it here, and I'll be honest, you know, you guys know the way I analyze charts. If we looked at it here, everything looks great. Uptrend, higher highs, higher lows. Everything's great, higher highs, higher lows. Everything's still great, higher highs, higher lows. Expect this to bounce, and right here, I'm expecting this to continue up higher and move towards those highs and exceed those highs, which is right around 4.8%. And lo and behold, oh, well, we didn't quite make it. And then we challenged it again. Now, at this point, one of two things is going to happen, obviously. It's either going to bounce and respect that demand zone, or it's going to break it. And the higher probability was that it's going to go lower just because it's already hit this 3 days in a row here, another day here. It's chipping away whatever demand may be resting there. And lo and behold, we broke that and we're aggressively following towards that lower demand zone. As of this day right here, let's go all the way back to February 13th, still looks strong. Uptrend is great. Here's where things turned for that yield, and that was on the 25th, right? So just this Tuesday is when we broke below that. We've really kind of broken that long-standing uptrend, at least long-standing from September of last year. And now the big question is, will it hold in the upcoming weeks, this level right around 4.25? To me, that's going to be the tricky level here for the 10 years. Do we hold for I'll call it 4.15, right? 4.15%. Do we hold that level or does it break down below it? And then the question is, how low does this thing go? Remember, we do have this not so invisible hand of Trump and Vance and Scott Bessent, Secretary of the Treasury, who said, we want a weak dollar. I demand it. Their influence is pushing this down, surprisingly. And maybe it's part of the Doge results, maybe also acting to push this one lower and lower and lower. Trump should be bragging about the lower. I'm surprised he hasn't. Look, I think he's got enough things to talk about. If you walk into his office, behind the cameras, right, we just see him sitting at the Oval Office desk, which looks nice, neat, and organized. I'll bet you that there's just all kinds of stuff on the walls, like, pump this, talk about your crypto. Kind of wild. All right, let's keep moving up the list here so we don't spend all of our time going through our top 8. Russell 2000, man, ugly, down 5.69% for the month of February. Ouch. And this is another one that, spent a lot of time toying with this level right around 2,200. And we officially broke it this week. We may get a retest of it, but just, looking the way trends are going, it looks like we are going to head towards this lower band here, which would put the Russell 2000 down around 2,100. So, another 60 points down from where we're at. We're up 20 points today, so it's not that far off. But that was your your 6th place finisher on our top 8 list. Just above that, you had crude oil. And the number's starting to get a little bit better, right? 3.52% for crude oil, even though it was down 0.55 today. This is the tricky one, right? We thought it would bounce here I thought it would bounce here when it came in this yellow box. The question was, how high would it go? I thought we might get up to the 71 mark right here if it was real strong. Today, a little bit of hesitation here. So based off what's been going on since January of this year, I don't really see this moving much higher. I do see it come back and challenging that demand zone and ultimately breaking back down below it just because of pressure by the markets, pressure by the dollar, and just global tensions. Next, moving from crude oil, which was 5th place, to 4th place, which is the NASDAQ 100, only down 3.19%. We just talked about it yesterday. What would you deem to be a big down day in the markets? And for me, you go over 3% in a day, that's pretty significant. 3% in a month, not bad. And most of it actually happening in a 5-day window of time. If we go from the peak on February 18th to our bottom we achieved today, NASDAQ fell a total of 8.33% in 8 sessions. That's pretty phenomenal. Now, the good news is we're back inside that yellow box, but I think at this point, that box has been violated, right? To me, it no longer means anything because it's all about yesterday's candle completely violated the lower side of the box. Now, what we could be looking at now is this area here as your next area of demand, which is, for those watching the podcast, between 20,633 and 20,382, so about a $250 range. But that's where we towed into today. We'll see if we get a bounce up. If we do get follow through, I do think you'll come back up to what your base drop here. That goes back to 21,000, call it 21,200, right? That'll be the next logical target for this one to go to. Merlin, do you think Michael Saylor is feeling the pressure? I don't think so. I think that he might be sweating a little bit, but remember, he's just issued 10 billion new shares. It would not surprise me to see him backstopping a lot of these stalls. Like today, we had an abrupt about face. My guess is he came in and bought a bunch today. We'll probably hear about it next week. The Michael Saylor bought X amount of billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin down around 80 bucks, right? Obviously, we hit a low point today. We can bring up that Bitcoin chart here on the futures. We hit a low point today for Bitcoin of 78,675. Got real close to that $76,000 mark that we had talked about, kind of being closing the gap and being the logical target here. Got pretty darn close to it, and I don't know. We'll talk at the end of the show today. Do we think that this is the bottom? We'll get to that. Let's not answer that one quite yet. All charts appear to have broken uptrend channels. I would agree with you, Jeff. I can't say all because I haven't looked at them all off the top of my head, but it's certainly starting to show an abundance of market weakness. Having said that, let's not jump and say, sell everything, markets are tanking, this is the end. It's just that incredible momentum we've been experiencing has stalled and started to slow down. It's kind of like taking off from John Wayne Airport. If anybody's taken off from John Wayne Airport here in SoCal, you have a real aggressive takeoff, the plane goes full throttle and feels like it's going straight up, and then they cut the engines. It's still going up. It's just not at the same ascent as it was earlier. So, we'll evaluate these markets over the next coming weeks, but certainly the strength that was there, the momentum that was pushing these markets higher, has shifted, right? It's just not as strong as it used to be, and maybe we start to see profit taking coming forward and pushing these markets even lower. Okay, top three. S&P 500, a respectable 1.8% decline for the month. Not that bad. This is better than the NASDAQ because it's staying within this range. For you spread traders, this is like nirvana, because since November, it's just a nothing but stay inside this yellow box, and now we're pretty much in the middle of it. Spread traders dream, right? Make money when it doesn't do anything. Love it. Fantastic. Hope you guys are doing well with that one. 1.48% move to the upside today. That's coming off the heels of a 2+% decline yesterday. So all in all, it's a wash. Yet trending down for the past couple of weeks, and of course for the month down 1.8%. So ugly month, but not atrocious. Given what's been going on, it's not that bad. Let's go to second place finisher here. The dollar index, the Dixie dollar index. You would think that this would be going the opposite direction of our markets, but it was just mass pain across the board here, except for one. And here is the dollar index. Now, granted, it would have been down a lot more. It's just really the last 2 days have vaulted this thing much, much higher for the dollar index. And, certainly the talks between Zelensky and Trump today helped this a little bit. At one point, we were down 2.16% on the dollar index. Now just a 0.86% decline. Not too shabby, right? Not too shabby. I still do think that we are in a kind of a downtrending channel here going back into January. So I don't think we're out of the woods yet. I still have an overall bearish tone just because the trend is there. But I do like that floor at 105.72 on the dollar index here. So let's keep an eye on that one going forward. And as you guys rightfully pointed out, your victor, the number one, which is very telling of what's going on with these markets right now, gold. It's the only positive of our 8 segments I look at, up 1.15% for the month. And that's coming off the heels of a huge drop over the past couple of sessions. Let's give you the exact number here. Gold's fallen over 4% from its peak here on February 24th. It's already down 4.22% and still up 1.15% for the month. So that is a pretty impressive number there. Let's just go to, that's a green candle, and that's, I can't tell what color these are. Let's see. Yeah, numbers are slightly off here, but going back to January 31st, it was doing fantastic. The last 4 days have been ugly for gold, but all in all, it does paint the picture of people looking to run towards security, going towards a market where things are historically a little bit safer in unknown times. And I think that's why we're getting the move up we did for the month of February. Tofi says, speaking of gold, when is Trump visiting Fort Knox? I don't know. I don't know when that is. I don't know when. Not only do I not know when Trump is visiting Fort Knox, but I also don't know when we're going to see the Epstein files revealed. I feel like this is turning into just a giant circus show where we're not going to get any real outcome with regards to the Epstein files. I just feel like this is, I don't know, I feel like it's just a dog and pony show that's designed to get us all excited about something that may already be manipulated. Now, let's be fair with these. I had a really cool graphic for this as well, and unfortunately I can't bring it up for you guys right now. When you look at the whole Epstein thing. Let me see if I can bring it up. Let's see, Epstein. There we go. Oh, I do have the graphic for it. Let me throw it on your screen over here because I spent time making the graphic. Well, I had AI make a graphic for me, so I wanted to at least get it up here. And we'll use this graphic again soon because I think it's very relevant. I think I figured out why I think something is in my computer, a virus or something, because it's been acting extremely strange lately, way weirder than normal. So here's the graphic I was working to create for you guys, and it was basically the Epstein files, and there it is. There we go. Got you a graphic. Finally, after all that, there's my Epstein file graphic. I like it. It was kind of this cosmic wind of documentation, and then you have the stack of stuff over here. Now, these documents are going to be released. They've been released to media to look through, and I'm pretty sure, I think you guys would agree, that someone of Trump's stature, someone of Trump's connectivity, who's always rubbing elbows with the high flyers and the people in know and powers that be, I'm pretty sure that Trump has rubbed elbows with Epstein. He may have been to that island. He may have done things that he's like, oh, that's bad. He may be on that list. So, when we get this stuff, when we finally do get the results, the reviews, the critiques, just in the back of your mind, I want you to think, okay, these are cooked books. Most likely, anyone who's in the current administration has been redacted and been taken out so that they are not going to get in trouble for it. And they'll probably point the finger at anybody on the opposite side of the aisle or even in their own party that's been giving grief to President Trump. He will go after them. Oh, let's keep that guy's name in it because I don't like that person, but take mine out of it. So I as excited as I am to see, I really don't care. It makes no impact on me. He's number 77 on the list. Again, I'm sure he's been there. Come on. Just his comments that he's made in the past would lead you to believe he has definitely been to that island before, but I would assume he would redact from it. So unfortunately, we've got this whirlwind of documentation, but I don't believe it. I don't really care. It doesn't impact my life. I'm going to move on. I just think it's soap opera and drama. But there we go. There's your Epstein files. What did I have for today? Taking too long to release. I agree. It should have been click, done. There you go. But the list is missing a lot of names. I'm sure it is, Lisa. I'm sure it's going to miss a ton of names. Like I say, if you're on his buddy list, I'll take you out the list. I'll take you off. You won't be. No one will see your name. But if you piss him off, I'm sure if I'm sure if Biden had ever been to that island or done anything with Epstein, he'd make sure to point at it. Oh, you guys see here, page 7. There's to Biden. Anyway, we'll move on from that because I think it's ridiculous. Okay, let's go on to other things. So I don't know. I have not looked at the mineral rights agreement between the United States and the Ukraine. Today, what went on between Trump and J.D. Vance and Zelensky was fire. Like, whoa, you talk about heated discussions. I usually am one who stays away from politics. I don't like to watch all the press conferences and stuff. I just think it's dog and pony show. But in my entire year or life of watching political discourse, I have never seen such a heated, aggressive, angry, hostile exchange between two people on live television in front of media cameras to the extent that I saw today with President Trump and Zelensky. Now, that was absolutely wild. Zelensky got absolutely roasted. And if you saw I believe the Ukrainian consulate lady was there, there's a glimpse of her where she's holding her head in her hands, rubbing her eyes, and she's shaking her head, and it's like she's almost in tears because this was a political butt whooping, in my opinion. It felt like Zelensky was just getting absolutely shredded. Now, I don't know which way this is going to go. It clearly led me to believe that Trump and J.D. Vance are working with Putin to resolve this, and the way it was conveyed today, who knows whether that's just, reality TV stunts that they pull, they created the illusion that Zelensky wants zero to do with peace, all he wants to do is fight, etc. Now, I don't know how true that is. Not my place. That's not my area of strength at all. But it certainly painted Zelensky as the villain in this one, and I just thought it was pretty shocking. I mean, Trump was saying, you have no cards in this. We have the cards. You need us. You should be thankful. It was just grilling. Man, it was embarrassing for the world to see, but Lisa, I do think it was orchestrated. It felt like they were looking to make Zelensky the scapegoat for everything. The scapegoat so we can stop sending them money. The scapegoat for all these deaths. The way Trump alluded to it, it was that Zelensky's responsible for all of these deaths on both sides. Let's say that's not the truth of it, but that's the way it was coming across in that press conference today. So we'll see how this one escalates. It was pretty interesting to see, and I meant to take some time today, but I've been really busy. This weekend, I'm going to do a little bit of a breakdown and look at what the mineral rights contracts were, because we will probably lose those mineral rights contracts in this, whatever happens going forward. If the U.S. pulls out our payments, our support, our money, our military, our weapons, this war is over. It'll end very quickly. And if Putin will agree to, not kill everybody in the process, this may come to an end very, very quickly. But if we lose access to a lot of these mineral rights, that might be damaging for certain industries. And I'm curious to see which industries may be impacted heavily by that. I'm sure that institutions have already shorted those companies that are relying on those natural resources and mineral rights, but I haven't done the research yet, and I would like to. Yeah, Jeff, I'd love to know. It'd be really interesting because, there's a lot of tertiary pieces, meaning if you get lithium or boron or so all these different elements, these metals, whatever, what uses those, right? Is it batteries? Is it electric vehicles? Is it what industries are going to be impacted by this, and how significant is it? That's something. That's my project for the weekend. I'm looking forward to doing that one. There's a couple things. Number one is I'm looking forward to that. The number two is I may do it this evening. I am dying to watch the Joe Rogan, Elon Musk podcast. As we know, Elon Musk can be completely unhinged when he's on Joe Rogan, and it's been great in the past. So, okay. Oh, Laura, you're welcome. Glad. Thanks for having me on. That was fun. It'd be great if I could do longer and explain more and go into more details, but we only had like 30 minutes. But it's fun to see you and your students in there sharing ideas, helping people be better traders. That to me is what it's all about. Giving back and trying to create a safe community where people can learn. To me, that's what it's all about. Margaret says, should have been done in private. 100%. There is no argument that should have been done in private. That's why I think that this was scripted by design to make Zelensky the scapegoat on the world stage, right? But just the hostile tone, shouting at each other, terrible. Shouldn't do it. Wow, Chad, thank you. I appreciate that. Cheers, Chad. I haven't seen that one in a while. I appreciate that very much. It's going to go to this weekend. It's going to be a good weekend. I'm going to go out tonight, have a couple cocktails. So cheers. Thank you very much for that. Saba says, crazy how we're getting threatened by nukes, and now we're buddy-buddy, right? That's what's so scary about all this. You watch these old war movies where, they've got their fingers on the button. It almost feels like that's where we were. We're like, oh, we're ready to launch nukes on you. And now it's like, hey, come to Moscow. By the way, I don't know if you guys saw it, but I got some pictures of Putin today as that meeting was being broadcast live. Here's Vladimir Putin today watching the TV as Trump and J.D. Vance were just shredding Zelensky. I did another one earlier. This one just looked really serious. I didn't want to. I thought this one looked too serious, but I liked the first one. He's kind of like smiling and laughing at it. But very interesting to see how this transpires going forward. And I know, let's stay away from politics, but this is what's steering our markets right now are these politics. And it's a fun little chess game that hopefully, fingers crossed, results in peace and people can live their lives and not have to worry about being shot, or missiles dropped on them. And, we're all in this boat together, so let's just get along. What else did I have? So today, trading-wise for me, everything actually worked out great. We had that nice little pop back up in MicroStrategy, which was important. So let me bring up that. So I sold calls against MicroStrategy against my position today. As you guys know, 320 is where a bulk of my position is at. So I'm pretty heavy underwater by like almost $65. That's bad. But selling calls against those. I think that the way this market ended today, and I thought I actually had a graphic in here for you. I'm looking for, I think we could potentially have a serious bounce this weekend. And I thought I had a graphic. Oh, there it is. It's way back here. So here's I was out of order. And here's why I wanted to talk about this. Hammer time, right? MC Hammer can't touch this. Well, look at the chart of Bitcoin today. This is Thor's hammer right here. This is a mallet. Look how long that bottoming tail is today. So for those who might be new, a hammer is where you're in an aggressive sell-off, or it doesn't have to be aggressive. It could just be a sell-off in the market, and you have a long bottoming tail, and then it comes right back up and it closes at or near the highs. Well, this tells you that when we opened up last night, we were at 85,000. We sold all the way down to an intraday low of 78,000. That's $7,000. That's like a 9% slide intraday, and then rallied all the way back up. Somebody was buying aggressively today. Once we got just to about $78,000, right? $79,000, someone loaded the boat. And the way that it finished, I always use this as a slingshot analogy. At one point, this was a gigantic red candle. Huge. And then all of a sudden, it looks like this. This, to me, is epic from a momentum perspective. It feels like we're going to see this thing go screaming to the upside now, which would be a stark contrast to what we've seen. And this is the futures market, right? So that market's closed. Let's go look at the spot market, which will give us a little better idea. Over the weekend, I'll be watching this one, obviously, because I'm addicted. But there's the same picture, right? Really big hammer formation at the bottom. We can add on volume, but volume usually isn't the best indicator with crypto because it's a fragmented market. But you have this huge hammer formation. You guys know the way to trade a hammer is typically you're waiting for it to break above the high. So if we get above 85,000, I do anticipate a lot of buying coming in here. It's about 1,000 points higher than where we are right now, which is not that bad. But I think you're going to see this thing slingshot to the upside. So I'm looking forward to that one. As you guys know, I've got a bit of IBIT. I got a bit of MicroStrategy that's tied to Bitcoin. Plus, I own a bunch of Bitcoin, so I'll be looking forward to a big rally because that's this sell-off here. I'll be honest. I did not think we were going to break as aggressively once we broke down, and having something like Bitcoin fall over a 4-day window of time, nearly 20%, as you can imagine, does a little bit of a damage to your account. So it was definitely a painful couple of days. Steve Nissen said that gaps up and acts as a demand zone. Right. Well, if it's a 24-hour market, Margaret, it can't gap, right? At 24-hour markets, you don't get gaps. If you do, they're like a couple of pennies, right? Because remember, one bar goes right to the next instantly. In something like futures or equities, yes, because we have a majority of the time the markets are closed. But I'll be watching the spot market here, which is 24 hours, 365. You don't usually get gaps with this, right? The only time you would get a gap with like crypto is if it's a very thinly traded cryptocurrency and there's a lack of liquidity. Got to sign some IBIT today. I think you're okay with that one, John. I sold some. Well, I didn't do anything with MicroStrategy except sell covered calls. I didn't add any more to my position, but I did open up a new position today. I'll tell you about that here in just a second. So, are you going to trade the hammer, Merlin? I don't know if I'm going to buy anymore. I'll be honest, I'm pretty exposed right now, and that's why I dumped part of my MicroStrategy calls or my MicroStrategy puts. I took a loss on some of them just because I didn't want that much exposure. I'm pretty heavily exposed to crypto or Bitcoin-related products with MicroStrategy, IBIT, and Bitcoin. So I wanted to move some of that around. That's why, I did some puts on NVIDIA and Palantir and Tesla, and I sold some more right around market close today on SMCI. I sold the $40 strikes on SMCI. Got great premium expiring next Friday. Just phenomenal premium expiring next Friday. So going to keep some long-term and sell cover calls against the rest. Yeah, and that's my expectation, John. I think what we're going to get is I saw some documentation that showed BlackRock was unloading Bitcoin. Now, that might be because of redemptions from customers. It may have been. Not sure exactly why. But there are people out there who are using this as an event to accumulate more. And I do think it's coming from higher up. Because if you look at what Cynthia Loomis was talking about on Wednesday with her press conference, majority, out of the 8 people I saw speak, one of them was against a strategic Bitcoin reserve. The others were for it. Now, we don't have to have an 80% majority, but certainly if we get 60%, a strategic Bitcoin reserve will get passed. And I think that this is being done, orchestrated to push price of Bitcoin down so that people can position themselves with better prices on Bitcoin before that hammer drops, the gavel drops, and all of a sudden we have a strategic Bitcoin reserve. So Jeff says Bitcoin 75, then 55. I don't know. The question I have is this the bottom? I thought we'd go to 76. I thought we'd go lower, and that was my target initially. But the way that we see the hammer form today, this weekend will be very telling. And if we get a lot of positive sentiment over the weekend, we can be back up to that 100,000 mark in a surprisingly quick time. It won't take very long, especially if the government does come along. And it won't happen this weekend, but in the coming months, potentially the government could say strategic Bitcoin reserve is being put up to vote at the Senate, and that I think would make a big change. Good, Sava. I'm glad you had a good week. Let's see. I'm still long TLT calls. Gold puts had a nice little move in SMCI. It was rhetoric, but mine were IBIT, TLT, gold. Yeah, you were at the TLT yesterday, right? You think you had to ask me about the TLT. I mean, if those yields keep dropping as they are, TLT is going to continue to move up. I think, buying into some gold on a pullback here would be pretty good as well. Pretty good as well. Let's see. SMCI is the other one I mentioned. Just keeping you abreast of the trades I made today. So as this kind of tanked as it did, I sold the $40 strikes. And it was, it's not that far away, but that's next Friday. I forgot what I collected on it. I think it was like $2.40. So, roughly 8%. I'm okay with that. I'll take 8% rate of return for a week with SMCI. Given what given what Nvidia said with their earnings and growth, remember SMCI is putting these systems together for people, so that's a pretty important one to, at least from my perspective. It's very, very risky, but that's the account that it's in. It's in my risk account. What 5 stocks did you buy this week? I didn't buy anything. I'm just thinking if I actually purchased outright. Most of mine were done with, most of mine are done options. So, the trades I put on this week, I did day trades on S&P futures, but that doesn't count. So trades put on were just, for me, Tesla, Palantir, SMCI, NVIDIA, and MicroStrategy. So those are 5 in the option space I did this week, rather than day trading, which I don't. That's just catching a simple little move. Okay. What else did you guys see this week that was exciting? I'm trying to think of stuff off the top of my head. That hammer formation was a pretty important one when we look at the daily. But there was another chart that I was looking at that I wanted to bring up. I thought was interesting. There were a couple that we looked at over the last week that I think were some great opportunities. I think I have about 10% Bitcoin. That's enough for me. Yeah, that's plenty. Again, you got to be really careful with Bitcoin. It is extremely volatile. It's one of the most dangerous ones out there. My end of year 70,000 Bitcoin odds getting better. They might be, but I think you're wrong. It's 70 for the year end. For that to happen, you'd have to have more negative rules coming into place, and it's just the tenor of our politicians is more positive. Much more positive for pro-crypto stuff. I didn't catch the political joke. Sorry. I was reading through too many things over here. What else did I have on my list to discuss today? I think that was pretty much all I had today. I'm good. I didn't mention NVIDIA yet. I think I did. I mentioned NVIDIA yesterday. I sold the 115s. So that was done yesterday. Sold the 115s on NVIDIA expiring for the 3rd of March and collected $1.89. So, that's about a 1.8% rate of return for 8 days. I'm okay with that. Plus, again, I'm fine owning NVIDIA. I think NVIDIA will do fine. I think it was a kind of a shocker to me how earnings crushed this one. They beat earnings. Things look great. They're making more and more money, and more and more business, more and more market dominance, yet the stock was down big 8% that day. I'll take it. I sold puts on NVIDIA on Thursday, collecting $1.89 per contract and 115 strike. There we go. That's the one. What 5 things? I might be missing. So I'm missing your inside jokes going on over here, so... As far as next week goes, there isn't any really big economic announcement that I think is going to be driving the markets like we had today, which you should probably dive into that. When we look at the core PCE price index numbers, we are seeing inflation rise. Now, the good news is it was in line with expectations, so it didn't surprise anybody. And I think when you look at this chart here, you can see if I put my cursor at 0.3, which is right where it's that horizontal line is on your screen, going pre-COVID, you would say 0.3% was too high. If you go post-COVID, 0.3% seems to be about normal. Maybe slightly higher than average, but that's about it. What will be of interest for me is in March. At the end of March, when we get our core PCE price index numbers and our core CPI and PPI numbers, what are they going to show us? Because we are seeing over the last 3 months, CPI has increased 0.1% per month. If that does continue, I do expect it to continue. I think we'll probably stall next month and stay at 0.3. But then I think by the time we get to July, June, I think we're going to be up at 0.5. Now, just to put that into perspective, at 0.5, I mean, that's where we're back here in 2021, and that's when people were losing their minds over inflation on how crazy it was. And we'll have to wait and see, obviously, what the next few readings are, but the trend is clear for the past 3 months. We're not at anything high yet, but as I assure you, as soon as this ticks up to 0.4 on that core PCE price index number, you're going to hear nothing but we are thinking about, we're not going to lower rates right now. We're probably thinking about raising them if we need to. And we'll take any action necessary to help with the inflation. That's going to be their talk track, as it always is. Looking at the FOMC probability at this moment in time, since we like to look at this one, so I'm still surprised. I'm actually shocked that there's even the remote possibility of a rate cut for the next meeting, which is March 19th. There's a 7% chance. Now, for the end of the year, this has been slowly shifting over. And right now, wow, this has shifted a lot. Right now, they're actually pricing in 3 rate cuts by the end of the year. 3. I just don't see that yet. Inflation is way too persistent, and tariffs are going to impact inflation significantly. So I think that this is kind of out of line here to expect 3 rate cuts by the end of the year. That would put us at about 3.75% Fed funds rate. Now, that'd be great for our markets. The cheaper that gets, the better, but that puts more pressure on inflation to the upside. Not good. Not good. Let's see. Merlin, the option class today is OTA or private. It was Trading Academy. It's part of the mastermind community. So Lori runs a session on Fridays called Simple Options in the mastermind community. Every Friday from 1 to 2:30, if I'm correct. So if you guys are mastermind, you should go in there and check it out. Join them and have some fun. Yeah, and I also went into the classroom. Nikki Sykes was teaching, I think she's teaching core strategy class this Friday, or this week in Irvine. And I went in, and since I'm local, every now and again, I go in and just give a little presentation. And it's so funny how, and I have to clarify it every single time. When I go to an event for Trading Academy now, everybody says, oh, here's our crypto expert, he trades crypto. And it's like, no, guys, I trade everything. Right? I mean, at its core, I started as an equities trader, and then I traded futures, and then I traded Forex, and I traded options, and then I got into cryptocurrency, and I just happen to know a lot about the crypto world, but I hate when I get pigeonholed into, oh, he's just a crypto guy. It's like, no, that's one segment of if you look at your trading as a business, that's one segment of my business. I am not the exclusive crypto guy. I would say now I just do more with options. Yeah. Mastermind is pretty good, especially when you have Lori and others that are in there creating a session that may not be a structured class. For example, when you go to something like the options program, or you go into futures program, and it's the core PowerPoint slide led by instructors with all the basic materials. That's great, but you're kind of stuck. It's like, I feel sometimes that those classes, you're on like a Disneyland ride, and you're on those guardrails, and you can't go off them, right? You kind of stay on that path and don't get too in the weeds. I like Mastermind primarily because you can go down any path you want to go into. You can go down any avenue, and it's nice to have people, especially simple options, right, to kind of get you started and see real-world examples. Steve, on Fridays, that is at 1 o'clock, 1 p.m. to 2:30, which is why Lori is always late on a Friday to this. Actually, you must have ended early because it's 2:39. Let's see. Some Top Step hosts were talking about concerns about the Trump agenda possibly causing instability and their correction, as well as a Trump bump gap closing. I agree, Chad, and I just don't know. We could make the argument for catastrophic damage to our economy because of Trump's actions and the market implodes. I can also make arguments for absolutely incredible reaction to Trump's actions and the market soars to all-time highs. It seems like every day that pendulum kind of shifts back and forth, which it's neck-breaking speed that it happens at. I, for one, and right now I'm watching what's going to go on with the tariffs. I think the tariffs, if implemented next week, are going to have next week a very bearish week. I think next week, because we got May 4th or May 5th, I think Tuesday is the deadline for tariff implementation with Mexico and Canada. Again, I think Trump will do what he normally does, which is, I'm going to get you tariffs. You're all going to get tariffs on March 4th. It's going to be huge. You got to get that fentanyl away from our borders, and you just stop these illegals from coming over. It's taking our jobs. That talk track, which I think is kind of crazy, he'll use that to get what he wants. So I think right now the markets are pricing in that these tariffs will go into effect March 4th. I think Trump will backpedal and say, I'll give you another 30 days. You got 30 days to go. We'll just make sure there's not a lot of damage. And when that happens, I think that'll transpire into a bullish week. Again, I don't know, right? I kind of just have to wait and see what happens here because so much is riding on the economy from the impacts of tariffs. And we haven't really felt it yet. Obviously, China's got 10%. We know that. But you might double down, add another 10%, plus the reciprocal tariffs coming in April. That to me would cause a significant market correction, in my opinion, right? And if we see these tariffs go into a place next week, 25% for Mexico and for Canada, yeah, I think it's probably in most people's best interest to liquidate your long positions. I will be looking at my long positions and being very concerned that the long-term impact here is going to be more bearishness, plus the knee-jerk reaction would be bearishness. So how do you position? Do you go out of the money options and buy deep out of the money puts just to protect yourself? Might not be a bad idea. Let's see. Andrea, I just found out the New York City location goes, yeah. Unfortunately, we're hoping to get more of that open up, right? Andrea, just so you know, obviously we've had some struggles as an entity, and we've restructured. We're getting things back on track. We've got a great team in place. We got new leadership, and just some really good people at the helm. So, hopefully over the next few months, we'll start talking about maybe centers may have closed. Maybe they'll start to open back up. That's our long-term goal. So, yeah, it was tough. I like that New York office. It was a great location, and I enjoyed going there and teaching. I taught there a few times. But there's many other centers that had to close down because of COVID and other things. It was a tough time. Melania said I should give, the 30 days. Yeah, that's it. He'll use her as the excuse. They broke away from the money. Merlin, do you prefer in the money or out of the money options? Eric, it depends on my gut feeling for what's going to happen. For example, and again, this is not financial advice. This is just what I did. I was looking at the SMCI options, and it's just like I feel like SMCI, based off the technicals having closed the gap. I think SMCI. Let me make sure I have multiple charts going on in my head. Yeah, so it got SMCI kind of came right down to this area, which some would call a rally-based rally, right? It came right back down into it. So I'm okay I went a little bit out of the money with 40. Typically, I do out of the money. Typically, I do way out of the money. If I was a little more confident in it, I would have sold at the money today, expecting that SMCI is going to have a bounce next week and recuperate some of these losses, and I would have got a lot more premium. Same thing for MicroStrategy. If I was a little more aggressive today, right, Mike, I think that you're going to see Bitcoin rally next week. I think that Bitcoin's going to have a great week next week to kind of have a knee-jerk reaction back to the upside. That should vault MicroStrategy higher. So if I did not have the exposure that I currently have to MicroStrategy, I probably would have sold at the money or in the money puts, just because I know I can get a ton more premium and then capitalize on a bigger move to the upside here. So it really depends on the timing. Most of the time I do out of the money, especially when I do like a 1%, my 1% strategy. Oops, I'm sorry, I went to the wrong chart. That's what I meant to show you here. We just wanted the one that works. There is no set time or logic behind you have to use this one. I think that different times will call for different measures. In the example I was just explaining with SMCI and with MicroStrategy, I have bullish sentiment for them over the next week. So if I was going to sell some puts today, I would have done them at the money. Yeah, I know, I switched it over. Sorry about that, Saba. I would have done them at the money. So if I think the markets are headed for more downside movement, then I'm going to go deep out of the money. If I'm selling puts, right? All right, let's see. Sometimes I'm curious your take, too, on how you buy protective puts, but that would be its own show. Yeah, that'd be a pretty long one. I'm going to try NinjaTrader. Okay. Yeah, NinjaTrader, I've been playing with Tradier. Now, Tradier's platform, if you pay for the premium, you don't have to pay commission. Well, you have to pay exchange fees, which are really small, but you don't pay commissions imposed by the brokerage firm, which when you do a lot of transactions, as I do, that can add up to a lot. But I think their interface is kind of clunky. It's not that great. Yeah, depends on. Everybody's got their favorites for options. I like Thinkorswim, but Thinkorswim is a pretty complex platform. I like simplicity now. I know what features I need and I use, and I just like to keep things as simple as possible. If you need a real estate agent, okay. I will have them work on that. Absolutely. And Bellevue, yeah. I love that. I love the old Seattle office. Since politics are unpredictable at the moment, is more prudent to trade at narrower time frames? I think so. My options selling. I used to do predominantly 30 days. Given what's going on now, I'm happy to take less of a premium, but do it for 7 days, 1 week, just because I don't want to let something get too far away from me. Like with MicroStrategy this week. That was a pretty crazy 7-day swing there for MicroStrategy. Thinkorswim has a nice feature that lets you beta weight your entire portfolio. That's nice. And again, we have to figure out what features we want. Everyone wants different things. I don't really use any bells and whistles anymore. I don't use any of that stuff. Futures, Ninja's pretty decent. Trade Pro Futures has got a bunch of different platforms that you can use through their site. They're partnered up with Tradier as well. So if you look through Tradier, you can probably get a pretty good deal. It's funny, you guys, all these different platforms, most of the platforms I use are retail basic platforms for options. Just give me an option chain. That's all I need. I use TradingView for my charts, and then I'll just go and do the option strike prices through an options platform. But I don't really use anything advanced anymore. I don't need to pay for software as long as I can get good charting. TradeStation used to have the best charting in my opinion. Or TC2000 was another good one, but TradeStation was my preferred. And now TradingView to me is kind of the front runner with regards to trading charts, ease of access. And at some point, I will probably link some accounts here. And I've got a couple different accounts here like TradeStation, which I actually closed my TradeStation stuff. But I have Interactive Brokers, I have Awanda, I've got Gemini. Ooh, Coinbase Advanced connects here. That's nice. That's really cool. I have Tradier, which I can now connect to this, and Ninja Trader. So you can connect different brokerage firms to TradingView, and there's Binance as well. So I haven't explored that option, but I may actually start to do that. But most of the time, I'm just doing my analysis here, and then I go plan out the trades and drop them in to my retail platforms. Merlin had to pause and skip up to catch up, but ES rallied up hard last 2 hours of the day, over 100 points from a dip. Thoughts? I think that it's just people saying this market was oversold, right? Knee-jerk reaction, we're politically motivated here, whatever the case may be. I think people are just trying to get in on it thinking this was the bottom, that we've had enough loss for the week. Let's grab that bottom, get some positions. And I myself am in that category as well. Robinhood. No, I wouldn't. I'm not going to say Robinhood. Jumbo TV says, too good. I just need someone with good charting. Yeah. And again, with charting as well, it's important that you get the features that you want. And if you guys, know me. You guys have all seen what I need. I need horizontal lines. I need vertical lines. I need trend lines that when I click on them, I can add in percentage, which I love having the percentage on there. And then I love drawing yellow boxes. You guys all know that, bop, bop, bop. And then I don't really need indicators, but every platform has indicators, so I don't care. I really like on on TradingView, most platforms don't offer this, but you see down here at the bottom, it's got these little E's that tells me when the earnings announcements are coming. That's a great feature, especially if you're trading stocks randomly and you're like, there's an E underneath today. Well, then you probably don't want to trade it, right? Too crazy. But I know right now that the earnings for MicroStrategy come out May 6th. Cool. Right? I don't have to worry about anything until May 6th. Or if you want to go to Apple's next earnings, all right, well, that's going to happen April 24th. So coming up soon. I like that feature. And I also, for you guys, I keep my candles here red and green, but I don't like red and green candles. It's hard for me to see red and greens. I'm kind of colorblind. So on my trading stuff, I have black and white candles. White being an up candle, black being a down candle, traditional Japanese candlesticks. And I think that's just a way better, it's so much better looking. I actually thought about changing it for you guys. Maybe I will at one point, but yeah, so that's it. Let's see what else we got. Being able to chart the option is a game changer. You know what, Chris? I've never got into that, charting the option. I know we've had a few that were really good at that, and unfortunately they're no longer with us. Yeah, it's kind of unfortunate. Tim Blotzer used to chart the options, and what was his name? He lived in Placerville. He's a really cool guy. Anyway, Thinkorswim just feels clunky for charting. I agree. Not a fan of Thinkorswim's charts. Okay, what is March going to look like? Look, Jeff, heck if I know. I mean, look, if we look at the S&P, and this will be the last part, and then we'll wrap up and get ourselves ready for a weekend. Let's go look at the S&P futures, right? At this moment in time, there you go. Thanks, Lori. Sean Reed. Yeah, Sean Reed was big time into looking at the charts of options, and it was never for me. So if I have to evaluate what the market's going to do, I'm going to let you guys tell me. So let's put a yellow box just for the month of March. All right, let's start there. And here is the end of March. So you've got this window of time, right? God, that's the whole month. Crikey. What's going to happen in that window of time? What do you think's going to happen? I mean, you got to do, yep, peddling for premium. That was great. Yeah, Jamie. Yeah, I really like Sean Reed. Good guy. Steve says, I think we have some downside, just me. It's okay. Yeah, it's totally opinions. What else we got? Yeah, charting the options pricing. What do you guys think is going to happen here? So I got Oliver thinks uptrend for March. I guess I could do a poll, but I like when we put it into perspective like this, just to see what does this look like, right? If we look back over the past, since November, so 6 months or so, I feel like it's just going to continue sideways. So until we get a break down below these numbers, I'll put the numbers on the screen here for the S&P, I just don't see anything changing. So you got a high of, let's call it 6,166, and you got a low of 5,810. That's at least the range-bound piece since pretty much early November. So in my opinion, I just think there's a higher probability that we're going to oscillate back and forth in this range and bounce back and forth. So that's what I'm planning on right now. Now, if we do get down below, yeah, then I think that's going to trigger a lot more selling pressure. I think that there'll be more people that say, okay, we've now moved out of this sideways range. All right, there's your sideways range since November. As they say, the trend is your friend to the bend at the end. And in my opinion, just my opinion, our trend is sideways. Now, grand scheme of things, when you look big picture, yeah, we're trending up. But until it breaks out of that sideways channel, I have no reason to expect it's going to do anything different. Really doesn't appear to peak more so. Yeah, exactly, Jeff. That's why I'm looking at this one, and I think that there's a higher probability we will trend sideways. Now, of course, anything can happen. We all know that. But what this tells me is if we do stay sideways and we continue in this pattern, then I will continue to be a seller of options and collecting premium with the expectation the market's going nowhere. It's a perfect time. I love when that happens because if you look at since the beginning of the year, right? Everyone's like, oh, as goes January, so goes the rest of the year. It's a pretty good mantra. But if we look from January 1st, which was a Tuesday or Thursday, to where we are today, we're down. We're down 0.57% for the year so far. And, everyone has this optimistic view of it. We're actually down for these past 2 months. I still think we're just going to go sideways. Chad says sell credit spreads at the ranges for the reversal. Yep, exactly. That doesn't look like a reversal. No, it looks like a double top or triple top here on the S&P, and you could argue you've got a triple bottom. Now, I have these tails. It's subjective. I understand that you could draw these tails in different places, but bottom line is price seems relatively contained in that area. So I do credit spreads. Collect them. I mean, I don't do credit spreads. I will just continue the premium because I don't want to give up the offset. I'm greedy like that, which in the case of MicroStrategy, they get burned every now and again. So there we go. All right, that's going to do it for me, everybody. Hope you enjoyed today. Been a busy one. I'm going to go and finish this glass of whiskey and probably have a couple more this evening. So thank you guys so much. I hope that you made some money this week. Next week is going to be a pretty fun one, but really just central bank announcements for next week and unemployment data or jobs data is really the focus for next week. If you guys have something you want me to discuss, email me, tradermerlin@gmail.com. You can send them on in. I'm happy to incorporate that into the show or make a whole show about it. I know I've got a lot of new people lingering in the shadows. Guys, interact, talk, send in comments, questions. You can see I try to get to as many of them as I can. And if you are brand new, hit that subscribe button so that you get alerted when I do these shows live. I'm actually thinking about doing more videos that are pre-recorded and uploading those, but we'll see how that all goes. Total call spread on SMCI, great, nice. Yeah, I just sold puts outright, cash secured. Cheers, everyone. Have a fantastic weekend. I will see you all on Monday. Do something fun this weekend, will you? Life is short.